Paul, I'd like to give you a small introduction if you wouldn't mind, because at the risk of talking too much here, I just want to like give a little forward here in that when I was, and Paul's heard this story before, but I'm going to say it again anyway. When I was 15 and studying with Bess Bonnier, one of the pivotal moments of my music life was her taking me down to the Bird of Paradise for the first time to see the then Bird of Paradise Orchestra run by our guest today. It was, I'll never forget walking through that hallway and hearing the music and um, the just the pulse, the energy coming from that room, and then to just sit there and be witness to not only like the professionalism, not only the creativity, but just the variety of music. And it was like it was nothing I heard in my life. Never forgot it, and had immediate respect, lifelong respect for our guest here. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the wonderful bassist, arranger, and band leader, Paul Keller.
Hey.
I tip my Santa hat to you. Thank you, Scott. All right. Well, I'm glad that we're all here and that we're all live because I'm happy to just call this a big conversation and let it go in whatever direction it goes. I know just by seeing Dennis and Scott, I'm inspired. By seeing, my friends, I'm inspired. David, I want to do this, but I've got so many little tricks that I wanted to just talk about, and it's nothing that you all don't already know. I think it's, for me, arranging this holiday music comes from a place of my own personal tradition, my family, and the songs that are familiar to me, and the songs that are familiar to other people. I grew up in the United Methodist Church. My father was a 45-year United Methodist minister. So I have that in my blood. I have Christmas in my blood. If I could, all I would do for my entire career would be to make jazz Christmas CDs. I love it so much, and
You muted Paul.
I think something muted everybody because it looked like everybody went on mute all at the same time.
Are we okay now?
And now we're good.
Okay. Well, because I'm a jazz musician, and I want to take those ideas and try to figure out, am I going to play it? Who am I going to play it with? Is it just me and a drummer, or is it me and a piano player, or is it me and a guitar player, or is it me and 3 guys or 4 guys? Or oftentimes we do it with piano, bass, drums, trumpet, trombone, saxophone. So just figuring out how are you going to do it, that's part of the process. Like, number 1, what are you going to do? Number 2, who are you going to do it with? And I think once you figure those 2 things out, everything gets a lot easier and funner. Like, that now you can just use Christmassy devices. fourths, triads, a third with a crunch right underneath it, a third and a minor second. There's a third. Those are just, I don't have but only 2 or 3 tricks, you guys. And there's 3 of them. That's Scott, right? It's nothing you haven't already heard before. And so if I've got 3 horns, I usually put the trumpet on the top. Usually, he's the guy that goes. And then the second guy is usually a saxophone. And we have a trombone. We make him play on ledger lines way up there. Don't you love the trombone and the saxophone? What a no-no, huh? What a no-no, but you add the third in there and it's so delicious. Oh, that's right. I just want to hear the two lower guys together. Okay, so devices. Everything's a device, right? Everything's a device. Ting ting a 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 ding 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 ding. I call that the lowest common denominator device. That one brings us together, right? Ding 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 ding. All right, so all of a sudden now we've got, here's another device, the mashup. The mashup. Well, what do you mean, the mashup? How do you make these Christmas songs into something? I guess you take them in their original form and you mash them up with some kind of jazz thing, right? That's not great medical science, but it sure is fun to figure out how can you do this in a creative way that has maybe 3 or 4 meanings. I mean, deeper meanings than just the melody. And maybe it's the melody that's the most important meaning to everybody because that's what fills everybody's heart because they recognize it. But the musicians love the mashup of the jazz and the harmonies, and that's about all I'm thinking of. I'm trying to make a connection with the audience through the melodies and hopefully somebody finds them interesting and satisfying arrangements that frame improvised solos. In our band, in our presentation, the improvised solos are also just a device. Just like however you're going to arrange the head. That happens now, this happens now, this happens now, this happens now. I'm going to write a new song as soon as the holidays are over. I'm going to call it What's Coming Next. Because that's the way I think about jazz, a jazz performance. And I think that way because I'm highly motivated by all the embarrassing moments that I've had on stage when stuff falls apart. I don't like that. I don't like that. So I try to identify those moments and make sure they're not going to happen again. And after 20 or 30 years of trying to do that, you have a bit of a collection of things that work and things that don't do that. So, and one of those things is, there's not enough arrangement on this. Nothing's happening. You got 6 guys and nobody can come together. That's where the beauty of the arrangement comes in. Okay, now the other part of that is, it's too darn long. You overdid the device of the solos. Nobody needed to hear 15 minutes of that. I mean, Not if you want to get 15 tunes in. You gotta. In my band, in my world, we keep all this stuff short, punchy. Boom, boom. Do this, do this, do this. Get on with it. Stand up, sit down, get out. And that seems to be effective. So, all right, there was about 15 things. That's our palate cleanser. Oh, how about this? Here's a mashup.
Paul,
Mashup.
how did you get the idea for that particular mashup?
From the title, Good King Wenceslas, and the second song that seemed to fit so well is Johnny Hodges' Good Queen Bess. So from the title, I just thought that was a fun little mashup, and they go so well together. One of the other devices is we have the drums lay out on Good King Wenceslas and come in on Beely do do do. I mean, it's so simple. Sometimes you gotta just like look at the very, very obvious, and that is everybody doesn't have to play all the time, including the drummer, including the bass player. I mean, that's just the simplest arranging tool right there is layout.
Well, if I can, I'd like to mention that just the way you were playing now, you can actually hear the arrangement coming to life because you leave space and you leave space for the horns to have their identity, the rhythm section to have their identity. And on a personal note, over the years when we've played together, you all have always had that sense of musicianship that allows space and for other people to have their voice in combination with yours. So I compliment you on your writing and on your playing, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I like to think that everybody is fulfilling their function, number one, including me. At the same time, I think on the highest level, either we are playing an existing arrangement that we already know from memory, because I'm talking about on the highest level, because I know this is what we do. And when you go and you play at Carnegie Hall, this is what you do. You have an arrangement, and you play it at the highest level, and it's from memory, and you're not looking at a music stand. That's really hard to do, especially if you're the third alto saxophone player in a big band. Almost impossible. But I saw, did anybody see Vincent Chandler's band the other day? It was so impressive at, what is it, Jazz Lab 2 at Wayne State?
Wayne State, yeah. Jazz Lab 2.
They memorized their entire big band concert. So impressive.
Great.
Now all of a sudden they're like looking around and making music and connecting with each other in a whole different way than being locked into the page. Well, that's what it says. Well, no. I work with John Pizzarelli. He says, I got 2 of these and I know how to use them. Right? I'm not gonna be locked into whatever. I mean, of course we try to make the page look good. And we just had a giant conversation about finale, and you should put all the dynamics and the articulations and make that chart formatted as beautifully as you possibly can. But don't forget, I got 2 of these and I know how to use them on the fly. I also have sense enough to know that even the best writer, I don't trust anything I read. I mean, I'll give it a shot, but if I can sense that that's not what he means, that is not what he means, or that is goofy. Unless, I mean, I take my liberties with everything that I read, and I try to be a very good reader.
Well, it's like these scores we're downloading from Muse. You got to fix them.
Oh,
Even if they're spot on, you still have to fix them.
I've read Tchaikovsky symphony bass parts where there's wrong notes in the published music. I find
there's fixing, Paul, and then there's fixing.
Every week of my life, I find something that's published or something that somebody gives to me, and it's a chart, and it's like, that's not quite right. Not quite right. So I just don't fully believe everything that is handed to me, although I respect the time and the effort that went into it. If I can see clearly that no time and effort went into this chart, I can still read it, but it just now gives me 10 other little hurdles that I have to run on. You know, instead of running a 100-yard dash, I love this one. When everything is so difficult on the entire gig, from beginning to end, I call it the marathon hurdles. Right? 26 miles of hurdles. Ugh. You ever been on a gig like that, Dennis?
Would you repeat that, Paul? I'm sorry, I missed it.
The 26, the marathon hurdles is what I call it.
Yeah.
They get ready to run the marathon. They shoot the gun, and you start running in 10 feet, hurdle, another 10 feet, hurdle for 26 miles.
Hey, Paul?
I've been there.
Paul, Olivia has a question for you.
Olivia.
Hey,
yeah,
Paul.
I love lady.
So I was actually talking about this with a friend yesterday and a student about like what makes something a holiday song, and there are like a bunch of kind of cheesy or not cheesy devices that you were kind of talking about, and then also the fact that like sometimes depending on who you're writing for or arranging for, there's certain things that even the general public will think of as Christmassy when really it's just like jazz tradition stuff. And I wonder if you're conscious of that when you're writing, because also your writing is so like just that classic swing. I find that people could easily like it might even it sounds like it's you just arrange like Paul and then you're using Christmas songs and maybe throwing in jingle bells, but you're just arranging like Paul, and so then people are like, this makes a lot of sense.
I'm
So I'm
not
wondering.
I'm not sure why that makes me happy, but it does. I mean, I just do. First of all, let me say that anything out of my mouth is just my opinion. It's just what works for me.
Well, and it clearly works really well.
It may not work for you, but like I said, I've been motivated by embarrassment, and I don't like that. So I just try to do things that work well for me. And you and I have done some gigs together where we just do that stuff on the fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
We try not to do anything stupid. We keep looking at each other in the eye, and that's a whole other thing than writing. But this ability to arrange on the fly, like you and I have done,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're on the gig. You've got your basic lowest common denominator, which is the form, right? The form of the song. And then you and I, we put extra bars in there, and we put a vamp in there, and I'm beginning to see the light. Then the top of the chorus. We do that all the time, right? That's stretching the. Oh, that's it. Those are two good devices. Stretch the form, add extra bars. The only reason we keep the 32 bars is because it's a device.
So it sounds like you're just doing the same stuff that you're usually doing, but then with holiday songs, and then like
Exactly.
yeah, and then I think the interesting thing about it is that a lot of things that we feel like are holiday, it's not necessarily giving off anything particularly holiday directly, but maybe it's nostalgia or topic, or those little. It's almost like writing like an overture for a musical where you like allude to it. Maybe you do the ding 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 ding, and then maybe that's it.
Sure.
And then people are like, "Oh my God, that's a holiday arrangement."
Yeah. Well, and there goes, but you just kind of touched on a deep topic, because what is the gig? Who are you playing for? Are you playing in a Jewish old folks home? You're not going to play a bunch of Santa Claus tunes or Christmas tunes there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you playing at Cliff Bell's? Are you playing a background gig for, people dining? Are you doing some kind of other concert where anything goes? Or are you, remember what I said? What's your function?
Right. And
Don't
I
you
think like
Don't you hate seeing a bunch of musicians that don't realize what their function is?
Mhm.
And they're either overplaying or they're playing inappropriately, and she's singing inappropriately. They're like, this is not a concert.
Right.
I just say, know your function, fit in. That's what I like to do, because otherwise it's embarrassing to me. I'm highly motivated by embarrassment. So what happens is I increase my awareness. Perspicacity. I love that word. It means a heightened sense of awareness. So the other thing I was going to say, besides stretching the form, Olivia, is truncating the form. We call that an elision. Well, there was an elision right there. Oh, sorry. And then the rest of the tune would go 2, 3, 4, 2, before, and that would be the end of the tune. But instead we go 2 bars early. We use the 2-bar elision all the time. It means you're not stuck to that 32-bar form every time. So let's say you got an intro. Got an intro, you sing the song on bar 31, 2 bars early. You pop the intro back in, and that's where the new 8 bars is. I love that device. We use it all the time. It just makes it the real book can be a useful tool, but it doesn't have any intros. It doesn't give you permission to put an intro on it. It doesn't give you the clue to put an ending on it. It doesn't give you a clue to, and it's not supposed to. It's a fake book. You're supposed to be able to do this on your own. It's only supposed to give you the bare bones, but the bare bones is just the bare bones. I like dressing it up. I like putting makeup on it and putting some high heels on it and a nice dress. It's all dressed up now. Now it's ready to go out. I think every tune I play, we try to do that. Whether we're faking it or whether we're playing an arrangement, we're trying. Again, what's coming next? And where does my solo fit into this? Is my solo like 99% of the song? Or is it 50% of the song? Or what is the percentage of improvisation, and what is the percentage of ensemble? That's a great word, ensemble. Anytime you can do any kind of rhythm or any kind of device with 2 or more people, you're playing ensemble. What do we say, Olivia, about scat singing?
Well, we've said a couple things, but it's you always say you're like, it's not scat when you're doing it together.
If you're doing it together, it's an ensemble. It's not a scat. Let's do it together. I don't know if we can do this together on Zoom.
Probably not.
If we do it together, it's not a scat. It's like, and it's cool, but it's got that jazzy feeling, and see, I just love it because it brings us together. And then you and I do it, and guess what? 3 other people in the band join in because it's so easy and so fun and so entertaining and so delightful and so satisfying.
Yeah, no, I think the thing that I love about like either playing with you or hearing your arrangements is that it's that perfect line between the predictable, the easy, and not making it harder than it needs to be, but still not doing boring stuff. And then I think that works so well with holiday tunes as well, because most of the time, unless you're, looking out to see someone's specific original takes, or if you're in a certain, I don't know, setting where it's just complete artistic liberties and no one is expecting anything, then that's like the perfect line of, ooh, and also, I know that song.
Yeah. I like to think of a basketball team that's got all kinds of stuff worked out. They got all kinds of cool plays worked out. But when they get on the floor, even if they've got an arrangement, there is just like incredible amounts of awareness and improvisation going on. And then bang, 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 in one of those passes that goes, or like hockey. Oh my gosh! They had that worked out, but you can't plan that. So you make your own luck. You have a great idea about how can you, I like to say this too when we're on the fly, is I've always got an idea for what the next arrangement is going to be. And I'm ready to ram it in there. I say barge in there, unless somebody else has got a better idea. Then I'll pull that thing back right away. And I'll go with Dennis's idea. Or I'll go with Scott's idea. Or I'll go with Olivia's idea. But if an idea is not being offered, there I am. I got it. I mean, at any particular time in the song, I'm ready.
God, I think you had a question for Paul.
Yes.
So, Paul, one of the things that's really impressive about your way to navigate through songs, and Christmas songs especially, is that you know the different harmonic highways to get from point A to point B. So, so if you're going from one chord change, you know three different ways to get there. So, how does that help you in your creation process of doing mashups or putting songs together?
Well, I think you got to be careful when you do that reharmonization and you're doing it on a solo section. Because all of a sudden, all of those interesting chords that were backing up the melody, sometimes now all of a sudden it just sounds like a bunch of chords. And it doesn't have any point of reference, where it did when there was a melody going on. So in my world, I try to make the improvisation chords easier to play on and easier to hear. Not always, but you know, again, just the right amount, right, Olivia? You don't want to make it too goofy, and then nobody can understand it, including me. But the other thing is, number one, know the melody of not just of Christmas songs, but any of these songs. By the way, they're all pop songs. Everything that we do in jazz is a pop song, unless it's written by Hank Mobley or Dizzy Gillespie, or that's a jazz tune. I also think about this: that we jazz musicians, we basically play. I think there are other subcategories, but the two big categories are the songs written by Jewish Broadway composers, Broadway and film. They're Jewish. Yep. And then there's a second category. I don't call these standards. I call them jazz classics. They're written by the African American jazz musicians. That's two different worlds.
That's a great comment, Paul, because when we were talking a few months ago, it's really interesting. Right now, we're in the middle of Hanukkah, and you were mentioning that you were doing an arrangement of some compositions there, and it's Christmas coming up, and it's also Kwanzaa coming up at the end of this month. So all of these things, you just connected three wonderful styles at the same time. And you also brought in the fact of the marvelous Jewish composers, many in New York in the 30s, 40s, and that wrote so many wonderful Christmas songs as well as other songs.
Oh my gosh. Every day I learn a new, I am just in love with Irving Berlin. Yeah. Or as he called himself, Irving Berlin. How about that? Berlin.
Oh, no. But the guy's got deep cuts for days.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good read, is the Irving Berlin story. Mm-hmm. Crazy how he lost everything and then built himself up, and loses everything and built himself up. And he's one of the great Americans, one of the great humans. Hey, before we leave, I want to play you this, David.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to goof around. That's a piano thing, right?
Well, it sounds like Vince Guaraldi.
And I wish I was a piano player, because I can't play all this together. But I'll try it.
pedal.
Let me just play a solo. I
And
can't.
solo over that, right.
I love that chord. It's a B7 with an F triad over it, right, Scott? The tritone B7, and then the tritone an F triad. So, G minor major 7. Oh yeah. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, shucks. Shucks. Scott, play this for me. Okay, here goes.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul.
Wait, I gotta play this. I gotta.
No. Paul, put your soft pedal on so we can. I don't know if anyone else. I can't hear what you're doing.
Yeah, okay, this is as soft as I can play it. Right?
That's much better.
Can you see the last line? Can you see the last line?
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of chords. What do you call those? Minor 13 chords?
Keyboardist I play with calls that B flat with everything.
Yeah, but it's minor. Yep. Yeah, and they're all parallel. So it's just a device because it doesn't really have anything to do with what came up earlier. It's new material.
Well, but you had two other devices in there you didn't even talk about, and you set up a carol. We'll call this Hanukkah song a carol, and then the further you got into it, the further you deviated. There's maybe 5 primary chords in the chart and 3 secondary ones, and you kept 3 of them. And then you replaced the rest of them under the same melody so that you had that anchorage. And then when the melody was gone, you went back to the familiar sonic undertone, the original structure of the song. So you're always keeping a thread in your mashup, but what you change, whether it's in rhythm or in harmonic structure, you're always twisting something.
But like Olivia said, not too much, right?
Not too much.
Just enough to, we're not trying to fool each other. We're just trying to do something that tickles us.
But something you have to remember from these Hanukkah songs is that they really are Christmas carols. These are not some ancient tradition. These were developed in the same period as the Tin Pan Alley standards that you talked about by many of the same composers.
1912 is what I have. Yiddish words to Oy Hanukkah. Music by, oh boy, I don't know if I can read this. Mordun Rivesman. Rivesman? I don't know. 1912.
Yep.
And in this case, those chords are not too nutty. You could blow solos over that. I think in this arrangement, we have a little bit of a thing too. That after we play all that.
Some squeaky Mixolydian clarinet up there playing the Yiddish klezmer line.
Yeah, a little hora, and just a klezmer feel for a second. And really, in our jazz thing, it's like sing, sing, sing. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Jews,
There's a mashup waiting to happen. Get some Krupa drums under that.
Yeah, how about Benny Goodman, for crying out loud? That and Ziggy Elman and that whole sing, 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 that's one Jewish riff after another. Right? Sing, sing, sing is just a big Jewish D minor mashup or E minor mashup.
Well, what's the Sherman Brothers take on that? I Want to Be Like You. Same.
Oh, yeah?
Sherman Brothers, next generation, but still from that same tradition.
I love it. I love the fact that there's no real new ideas. There's just a bunch of, I have 4 ideas. I just try to mash them up in different ways. And it's not necessarily composing. It's just like more of a cataloging of ideas and trying to come up with them quickly.
Think of it like Lego.
Yeah. Hey, here's one. You ever heard this? This is so simple. That's the whole song. Have you ever heard it?
Holly and the Ivy.
This has nothing to do with the song. one device after another, right?
Hey, Paul. Will Bennett has a question for you. He wants to know what are some of your favorite lesser known Christmas or holiday songs?
Oh, hello, Will. My favorite lesser known? Let's see. Oh gosh, I don't know. I know them all so well, so I'm not so. What's lesser known? You know what I like? I like this. Maybe it's much too early in the game. But I thought I'd ask you just the same. What are you doing New Year's? New Year's Eve. I wonder whose arms will hold you good and tight when it's exactly 12 o'clock that night. Welcoming in the new year. New Year's Eve. Maybe you're crazy to suppose I'd ever be the one you chose. Out of 1,000 invitations, but in case I stand one little chance, here comes that jackpot question in advance. What are you doing New Year's? I don't know if that's really lesser known, but yeah.
Jeff, you had a comment?
Well, I mentioned in the chat room that there are two holiday arrangements I absolutely love. I turn to at the beginning of the holiday season almost immediately, and one of them is by Paquito de Rivera in a duet with bassist John Miller, and in that particular arrangement, they take it way out there in many different parts of that song, but they always bring it back. And you had mentioned that earlier, Paul, that's important to bring it back. And I'm starting to maybe learn a little bit why I'm so attracted to these particular arrangements. The second arrangement that I really look at is Dave McKenna's. He did a solo of Sleigh Ride.
Oh my gosh! I bet
One of the techniques. I'm sorry, Paul.
Steamroller, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But you know, it's really interesting. Even though he does that, he uses what you mentioned earlier. He really stretches in certain parts of the song, and it kind of slows it down a little bit and creates a really interesting, for lack of a better term, atmosphere in that particular arrangement. But the point of my comment is I learned why I'm probably attracted to those particular songs. So thank you.
Yeah, good comment. And let me just say again that anything that comes out of my mouth is from my experience, and it's my opinion, and it's what works for me. But we all know that jazz is the biggest four-letter word there is. It's huge. It covers a lot of ground, and there's a million right ways to do it. I like to say that there's a million right ways to do it. There's 10 million wrong ways to do it. There's no one right answer, and my cup of tea is different than Jeff's cup of tea, is different than Dennis and Scott's and David's and Olivia, and we've all got our thing. I think what the beauty is when we come together with whatever we've got, and we, once again, humanity. We were talking about this with, I don't know if you were part of this at the beginning, but Dennis was complimenting Scott on everything he did during the pandemic to help with the technical end of getting the video back up and working to connect us so that we could make music together. And Scott commented, yeah, it was very difficult, and sometimes it was kind of pathetic. And indeed it was, but the bigger picture is people reaching out to people connecting, doing anything we can to be humans and take care of each other and connect. And that's what I love about so many things in jazz music is you've got some solid opinions about what music is, and so do I. And how can we come together and not fight about it, just make something beautiful? Sometimes that's on the fly, sometimes it's talked about. Oftentimes it's never talked about, and you have to look into your crystal ball and say, what does this guy expect from me? He might be saying the same thing to you. I don't know. Depends on who's paying you, I guess. A lot of things to think about, but at the same time that you're taking care of business, you can sure get away with a lot of murder and have some fun, right, Olivia? Boy, that gig over there at Fishbones that we did really made me happy. And Jeff, you were there to take pictures. Those were some of the most fun pictures, huh?
I was, and it was a lot of fun that night. Absolutely.
Paul, in your playing, which I've enjoyed very much, we all have, there's a sense of form that underlies everything that you're doing, which always comes through in your many arrangements that you've done, and also even in the spontaneous improvisational gigs when you're playing tunes. And I know that you have a number of CDs out, and some of them actually feature holiday music. And I know you've got a few holiday concerts coming up too, that people might be interested in knowing about.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Indeed, I have 3 Christmas CDs, and one of them we made right before the pandemic and the lockdown. So we didn't even really get a chance to sell it too much last year, but it is out now. It's called Even More Christmas Songs for Jazz Lovers. Jeff has been helping me with my website. Jeff Dunn is so awesome. Love Jeff. So for now, it's pkorecords.net. Right, Jeff? You're proud of me for mentioning that.
Ta-da.
pkorecords.net. paulkellerjazz.com. Look at that stuff and admire all the great work that Jeff Dunn did.
Yes.
And I'll be grateful to you for the rest of my life, Jeff. You're an amazing guy.
It's a beautiful website. Congratulations, Jeff. Yeah, wonderful.
For sure. Okay, and then we have. Boy, I gotta tell you all a sad, sad story. And sometimes this happens at Christmas. We had been preparing for a big holiday concert tonight at Babs Underground in Ann Arbor. It was a WEMU holiday celebration party. And I kind of built this whole thing, not only just around that gig, but I knew that our friend, who I'd become very close with, Lisa Berry, was going to be in the front row, and she's the president of the Paul Keller fan club. And I knew she was just going to be there laughing at all of my jokes and loving every minute of it and loving life. Well, sadly, Lisa passed away unexpectedly earlier this week. I think you probably all know about that. And so the gig today that we so carefully planned for is canceled. Instead, we're going to go play for her funeral. And shortly, I'm going to when we shut this down, I'm just going to get in my car. I'm going to go up there to Novi, and we're going to send Lisa off with some good music. So that's really something very heavy to overcome. She was a really dear person to me. Be happy to talk to you more about her later on. But from that, I will say we do have some other live performances of our Christmas music, and they're all free. Sunday at Ypsilanti District Library. It's on Whitaker Road, just south of I-94. That's at 2 p.m. I think it's also going to be live streamed. Then we're going to bust down over to Lansing. We're going to do the same, well, kind of the same concert. We've got so much good material, we'll probably mix it up. At the First Presbyterian Church of Lansing. That's also going to be live streamed. Then this Wednesday, we're at Schoolcraft College for the noontime concert at the presentation room at the Vista Tech Center, where the Jazz Festival is. That's noontime. That will be live streamed, and it's also free. Am I right, Dennis?
I believe that is, yes. And that's a nice series they have there at Schoolcraft too.
Yeah, we've loved participating in that.
Yeah.
That's noon this Wednesday. And then I think we have one more, and it's not this Saturday, it's a week from Saturday. What is that, December 18 perhaps, at Open Arms Church in Livonia. It's on a Saturday night. And traditionally we have about 20 people that show up for that concert. So I'm hoping that you will come and that you will tell your friends and we can have more like 40 or 50 or 60 people show up this time. Open Arms Church in Livonia. It's on 7 Mile Road, like by Farmington, I think. And it's on Saturday, I think that's the 18th of December, 6 o'clock.
Great.
Okay, there's my Christmas concerts. Oh yeah, we also have one with Ellen Rowe at Carytown Concert House the next day, December 19th. So lots of fun stuff. Like I said, if I could, all I would do would be make jazz Christmas CDs, holiday CDs.
So Paul, we're at the hour mark. I know you have to get to the funeral soon. So normally we take questions during this time. So I want to give the opportunity for some people to ask questions. But could we keep them short? Just a couple questions, and then we'll let Paul go. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask of Paul, his career, his life, his arranging, his bass playing?
I have a question for Olivia.
Shoot.
Okay.
When's our next gig together? Oh, and how did it go last night?
Really well.
I knew it. That was just a rhetorical question. I knew it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was easy.
Yay! Thank you for doing a great job. I knew you would.
Welcome.
And
I don't know. I was gonna ask you the same question.
Okay, we'll get something together. Something soon. Maybe come in and sing with the big band sometime.
Yes.
And David, same for you.
That's awesome.
And David, you got to come and see and hear your new chart.
There's no vocal line to it, right?
You know what? You can always do that Pat Metheny, Lyle Mays things and just go la 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 la. So yes, there's a vocal on it.
Right, and none of us Consuelos vocal.
Let's see. I wonder what else is fun. Keep thinking of some questions. Oh, okay. How about this? This is so fun. Yeah, right? And you can either just improvise that, or if you get organized, you can write it down, and then it's an arrangement.
Thank you very much, Paul. Michigan Jazz Festival, and everyone really appreciates you spending your time with us this Saturday morning. And how about a hand for Paul, everybody?
Thanks for